Hey fight fans, Cage Minds UFC 141 prediction show. UFC last show of the year going out with a big bang. There's 11 fights on this card, we'll get right to it. The first one is Manny the Anvil Gambierian, who's 13-7, taking on Diego the Gun Nunes, who's 16-2. Gambierian, judo practitioner, has some submission capabilities, good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, as were Nunes. It has good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good Muay Thai. He trains with the Nova Yao camp out of Brazil. Both of these fighters are coming in off of losses. Gambierian has been knocked out in one loss and also through a hard decision with Tyson Griffin. Nunes is looking to get back to the form that he was in against Mike Brown, as to where Kenny Florian kind of bullied him around in his last fight. I think with a formula of leg kicks that he's going to start to break down Gambierian, and I think the Gun Nunes is going to end this fight with the second round TKO. Gambierian has a tendency to start winging wild haymakers and hold his chin a little too high, so I think that Diego Nunes will have a good comeback fight and end with a second round TKO. The second fight we have is Matthew Riddle, who's 5-3, taking on Luis Ramos, who's 19-7. Riddle has a substantial size advantage in this fight. He's 6'1", as Ramos is 5'8". I think the height disparity, the weight disparity is really going to play a huge factor. It's going to be takedowns and ground and pound, and a lot of it from Riddle. I see this fight going all the way to the bell, being a unanimous decision for Matthew Riddle. The third fight that we have is Jacob Christmas Volkman, who's 13-2, taking on Efren Escudero, who's 18-3. Escudero is a late replacement for TJ Grant, who is sidelined due to injury. Volkman, a grappling specialist, very good with his submissions. Escudero, also very good with his submissions and is a very good wrestler, but has lost some grappling battles inside the octagon. He was an Ultimate Fighter winner who then lost some fights consecutively. Evan Dunham and Charles Oliveira left the UFC, went 5-1, is now on his way back. Volkman, who is now on a 3-fight win streak, I think that he's going to show what he primarily usually shows in his fight. His excellent grappling capabilities, turns every fight that he's into a grappling match, and usually is able to win. I think that he'll be able to catch Escudero, who might be a little over-emotional for this comeback. I think he'll catch him with the Darius choke in the first round. So Jacob Volkman with the Darius choke in the first round. Next fight is Dong Young Kim, the Stun Gun, who's 14-1, versus Sean Pearson, who's 5-11. Both of these fighters are coming off of big knockout losses versus some of the top welterweights in the world. Dong Young Kim, losing to Carlos Condit, and Sean Pearson, who suffered defeat by a big right hand of Jake Ellenberger. Both of these men are looking to get back on the winning way. Dong Young Kim primarily uses his grappling and his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. A lot of his strikes come from ground and pound, control, submission. Pearson himself has better stand-up, but we've seen it be very effective against Matthew Riddle and very ineffective against Jake Ellenberger. So what kind of plan do we see out of Pearson? That's the big question. I think that the primarily more focused on the grappling skills that Dong Young Kim has. He has this way of just making the fight dirty and nasty. I think he'll grind it out and get the unanimous decision. It's also been a long time since we've seen him, and I bet we'll see the best Dong Young Kim that we've ever seen. So we're going to go with him for the unanimous decision. Next fight is last call, Danny Castillo, who's 12-4, taking on the assassin, Anthony Njokuani, who's 15-5. Castillo's coming in on late notice, replacing Ramsey Ninjao, who's out with an injury. Castillo, again, primarily a wrestler who's been using his striking skills more, been growing under the training of the team Alpha Male. Anthony Njokuani, he was supposed to fight at UFC 138, was unable to because his opponent was in a car accident, so now he gets a quick turnaround, trying to get a fight in before the end of this year here at UFC 141. And Njokuani has a 3-inch height advantage, 3-inch weight reach advantage, is the bigger fighter, is so much more used to the striking game. Last time we saw him, he just picked apart Andre Winter, even landed a few of his own takedowns. Castillo looked really good with his hands last time. If he tries to use his hands again this time, I think he'll get caught. I think that we're going to see Njokuani with better takedown defense than we've ever seen in this fight, with a first-round TKO for Anthony Njokuani. The next fight we have is Ross Pearson, who's 14-5, versus Junior Assunção, who's 14-4. Pearson primarily uses his boxing. He's been gaining more technique and use of his kicks. Not a bad grappler for being a British fighter, not taking shots at British fighters, but he's one of the better grapplers without having any long-term wrestling Background. His opponent, Austin Sao, is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner who has had his ups and downs in the mixed martial arts game, was very impressive against Eddie Yagan in his last UFC outing, but I didn't really like his stand-up. I don't like the way that he holds his head up. Pearson's going to stand in the pocket, going to throw bombs. If Pearson is not able to end this with a knockout, which I've never seen Sao finished with strikes, I think that will go all the way, actually very closely with the split decision because of Austin Sao's ability to take damage and also his high level of jiu-jitsu, which will be forcing him to try to make this fight dirtier. But I still see Pearson taking the split decision victory. This goes up to the main card now. Nam Phan, 17-10, takes on Jimmy the Kid Hetz, who's 9-0. This is our first main card bout. Nam Phan, we know him from The Ultimate Fighter. We know he uses his cardio. He has a plethora of styles and techniques that he throws out with his stand-up. He's not overtly powerful, but he is very crisp with it, very clean, and he goes to the body a lot. Hetz, his opponent, a young grappler who has very nice submission game, subbed out all 9 of his first 9 victories. So, what do we see happening in this fight? I think that Hetz is going to use control. He's going to push around. He's going to be bigger, stronger, and also going to have a wider range of improvement from the last fight that we've seen from Phan to Hetz, that Hetz will be that much more improved. I think Hetz is going to take unanimous decision victory, having that much respect for Nam Phan, his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game, and not being caught and being subbed out. Moving further up now, the main card, Vladimir Matyushenko, the janitor, 26-5 versus the Mauler and Alexander Gustafsson, who's 12-1. What do I think we're going to see in this fight? Matyushenko wins this fight if he's able to use his wrestling, get on top, and use ground and pound, possibly even land a big right hand with an uppercut or a hook. The Mauler wins this fight with putting on display his sprawl and brawl, his wrestling that he's learned from Phil Davis with the Alliance Training Center. Gustafsson's heavy-handed, he can take punishment, he can dish it out, and I think he's going to dish more out. And by the third round, I'm looking to see a stoppage. In that third round, I think that Gustafsson will put away Matyushenko with a third-round TKO. Next fight we're going to talk about, John Finch, who's 26-3-1, versus Johnny Hendricks, who's 11-1. Finch, wrestler, grappler, makes every fight dirty. He's a pit bull. The last time we saw him was his draw with BJ Penn. In my opinion, Finch is one of the guys in the UFC that it's surprising to see the way that his striking game has not grown over time. I'd say when you compare the striking in this fight, that Hendricks is vastly much further ahead of Finch in a much shorter amount of time. They're both great collegiate wrestlers. I think they're going to see an upset. If it goes all the way to the cards, I think that we'll see it actually be a split decision just because Finch makes fights so dirty and uses so much control. But I think the striking, the activity, and nullifying some of those takedowns, Johnny Hendricks will surprise us. And if there's any finish in this fight, it'll be Hendricks finishing Finch. So we're going to take Johnny Hendricks. We're going to go up to the co-main event now. Nate Diaz, 14-7, versus Donald Cowboy Cerrone, who's 17-3 with 1 no contest. Both of these men are long, lengthy lightweights. This is top of the food chain kind of fight. Title implications loom after this for Donald Cerrone possibly getting a title shot. I think that we're going to see a fight that starts off on the feet. A vast array of techniques will be thrown from Cerrone. Diaz will be using primarily his boxing, and I think that accumulation of harder shots and more weapons, that knees, the elbows, that Cerrone will wear on Diaz, and by the third round, a shot will land that will take Diaz to the ground, and Cerrone will actually win this fight with a rear naked choke in the third round. That's for the co-main event. Donald Cerrone with a rear naked choke in the third round. This takes us up to that big bang, the main event of this 141. Brock Lesnar with his 5-2 record versus Alistair Overeem, the Demolition Man, who's 35-11-1, making his UFC debut. Lesnar, we have not seen him since he lost to Cain Velasquez back in October of 2010. Overeem, this is his debut, like we said, in the UFC, what so many hardcore fans have wanted to see. This is, can he hang? For Lesnar, some people say too much, too fast could be a problem in his career. Also, we look forward to seeing how has Lesnar bounced back from the diverticulitis, from losing a fight due to strikes in the first round and not having his title now. How does he handle all this? How does Overeem handle the steroid issues that have been before him? How does he handle the traveling back and forth from here in Holland due to some health issues within his family? How does he handle all of this? How does he handle the size and the wrestling of Brock Lesnar? How does Brock Lesnar handle the striking of Alistair Overeem? Overeem, with his 35 victories, and 29 of them have been in the first round, and I believe 33 of them have been finishes out of the 35 victories. Overeem wins this fight if he wins it in the first round, maybe the second round, if he's able to use leg kicks, if he comes out aggressive. That's how Alistair Overeem can win this fight. He wins in the first round, he wins in the second round. A big question that needs to be answered by Brock Lesnar is, can you take a punch? Shane Carwin and Cain Velasquez, well, that says you can't. And Alistair Overeem, to point out, has been studying striking for much longer than both of those men. So the striking advantage, definitely without a doubt, Alistair Overeem. The potential to end this in the first round, huge for Alistair Overeem. Brock Lesnar wins this fight if he's able to push it against the cage, lean on, weigh on Overeem, take it to the ground, use his ground and pound. And if it gets past that second round, there is no way that I believe Alistair Overeem will have the cardio to be able to maintain the pace that Brock Lesnar will be able to maintain. So if it sounds like I'm building above both men a lot, I am, because the winner of this fight is the number one contender for Junior Dos Santos, and I'm really going back and forth on who to pick. Alistair Overeem wins this in the first round with a TKO. Brock Lesnar potentially wins this in the third round with a TKO, fourth round TKO, or an arm triangle somewhere from a top position and controlling. Somewhere between the first round finishes, the experience, the striking ability, I'm taking Alistair Overeem with that first round TKO. Also, just because last time I didn't, Junior Dos Santos did TKO Cain Velasquez in that first round. So that's been the Cage Minds predictions. We'll go through it one more time real quick. Diego Nunes with the second round TKO. Matthew Riddle with a unanimous decision. Jacob Volkman with a Doris choke. Dong Young Kim with a unanimous decision. Anthony Njokuani with the first round TKO. Ross Pearson with a split decision. Jimmy Hetz with a unanimous decision. Alexander Gustafsson with a third round TKO. Johnny Hendricks, I think, with a unanimous decision victory. Donald Cerrone, a third round rear naked choke. That will be the fight of the night. And Alistair Overeem with a first round TKO. My best prediction. This has been Cage Minds for our UFC 141 prediction show. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook. Thanks for watching the video. Uncaged Warrior within yourself and follow your dreams. Hope you enjoy the UFC 141.